as I was looking and watching the presentation, it reminded me of my youth. The very same television set that I watch Nelson Mandela being released from prison is the same television set I used to watch Gabriela Sabatini play tennis. Most of us know Roger Federer now, Gabriela Sabatini, Steffi Graf, and watching Wimbledon, looking at those girls and boys picking up those tennis balls, and I was saying, ooh, if only. As PJ Powers was singing, it reminded me of the era of bubblegum music in South Africa, where we used to listen to Brenda Fassie, the days of Ricardo singing I Love You Daddy, days of Kwaito, and today Amapiano, which technology has made available globally. The days of American hip-hop. Honorable Minister Tani M. Swelihi, Minister Delegate of Francophone and International Pastor or in International Partnerships of France, our partners who are here, I stand on all those protocols. Remiru for this incredible vision of FIX. I see Antonella here. Anand Singh is here. All the delegates who are here, welcome to the FIX 2025 Sports Arena. The Sports Arena is one of the key innovations in this version of the Finance in Common Summit. The key message is that sport can be a sound vehicle for sustainable development. Sports infrastructure underpins the social sectors in which the DBSA invests in sports development, can assist South Africa to move towards achieving SDGs. It is a known fact that sports impacts rural and township economies, and this we require to do more of. I remember as a young girl, there was one of the gentlemen in our community who decided that we must start gymnastics. This is in the 80s. He managed to put together some apparatus, and I remember the beam was wood. And it's one of those apparatus that, it was a challenge for me to get on and, I would walk in it, but not do a flap on it, a backflip. But you see, today, as I was reflecting, I was sitting there and I was saying, my daughter, I didn't overcome the beam, but she did. Because it was great to see her doing gymnastics and actually doing those flips on the beam. Sports builds communities. Sports is an important part of any culture. The DNA of any community is wound by that unity that sports brings. I remember it was January of 1996, we had just voted 2 years earlier, and Bafana Bafana won the Africa Cup of Nations. I took the t-shirt that I had, I wrote on it with a Koki pen. And the theme at that time was Ndizani Bafana Bafana Ndizani. That means fly, fly. And I wrote it with a Koki pen all over my t-shirt. The excitement that it brought to all of us as a nation. Winning the Rugby World Cup for the first time in 1995, how it united South Africa. And when Francois Pienaar says there's millions of people, 40 million people behind me, an indication that sports in its diversity brings strength and hope to nations. Ladies and gentlemen, investing in sports infrastructure must become part of our economic development as nations. At the DBSA, we have seen an opportunity in our D-Lab program where we are prioritizing empowering youth through community-based economic development that has shown that sports and sports-related facilities bring people and opportunities together. We currently have 9 D-Labs that are running, focusing on sports, and the most active ones are in Jabulani, Alexander, and Louwsburg in KZN. And you see, for a development finance institution, it is not a common thing. And that's why the Sports Coalition is the greatest gift in development. So we are deliberate and we are intentional in driving sports development, in making sure that sports is investable. Sports becomes an asset class. And in that way, we are building a better future for our children. Ladies and gentlemen, as we engage today on investment in sports, let's remember that sports is a mechanism. Sports is a tool. Sports is the way to build Africa's prosperity. Thank you.
Sports is indeed a unique asset class. I'm so glad you mentioned the coalition, and I'm so glad we talked about this special relationship between France and South Africa. Talking of France, as you know, they hosted the Olympic Games, amazing Olympic Games, and during those Olympic Games, we had the first Sustainable Development, Sports for Sustainable Development Summit. So without further ado, I'm going to call on stage our ministers for Francophonie and International Partnership for France, Mr. Thani Mohamed Soleihi.
Good. Thank you very much for the welcome. I will speak in French, and this formidable man will translate.
Okay, then I will be your translator.
Monsieur le directeur général, cher Rémi Rioux, mesdames et messieurs, chers amis.
Dear delegate, dear friends,
je suis très heureux d'être parmi vous aujourd'hui dans cette magnifique arène.
it's a great pleasure for me to be amongst you in this arena.
Je tiens à remercier les organisateurs du sommet et de cet événement qui me donnent l'occasion d'évoquer notre agenda commun autour du sport.
I would like to thank everybody for having invited me so that we can talk together on the agenda on how we're going to develop sport.
Et ce, 7 mois après les Jeux olympiques et paralympiques de Paris.
And this 7 months after the Olympics and the Paralympics in Paris.
À l'heure où certains cèdent à la tentation du repli,
By the time some are trying to retract,
le sport est un puissant levier pour bâtir des ponts,
sports is a very powerful tool to build bridges
pour nous réunir autour de belles valeurs communes.
so that all of us we can be united around common values.
Le sport peut aussi accélérer notre mobilisation en faveur de la réalisation des objectifs de développement durable.
And sports can also assist us to move forward in the sustainable development goals.
C'est fort de cette conviction que la France et le Comité international olympique ont organisé, la veille de l'ouverture des Jeux de Paris, le sommet international Sport pour le développement durable.
And it is because of that sports for sustainable development have been organized after the Olympic Games in Paris.
Je me réjouis qu'il ait permis de mobiliser la communauté internationale sur l'importance du sport et de ses bénéfices pour l'éducation et d'emploi, la santé, l'égalité femmes-hommes ou encore l'inclusion.
And I'm really very happy because this has allowed a mobilization of the international community on how sport is very important
For education,
for education, yes,
for employee,
and employment,
for health, égalité
for
femmes-hommes
equality,
and
for all,
inclusion.
and inclusion.
Au nom du gouvernement français, je remercie les 60 États qui ont concrétisé leur engagement pour la signature de l'accord de Paris.
So in the name of the French government, I would like to thank all the 60 governments that have concretized the signature of the Paris Accord
Sur le sport pour le développement.
on sport for development.
Je salue également les engagements pris lors du sommet, notamment par la coalition des banques de développement,
So I also salute the engagement that have been taken by the banks for development,
coalition qui s'est engagée à investir 10 milliards de dollars
a coalition that has committed to invest $10 billion
dans des infrastructures sportives de proximité d'ici à 2030.
in sports infrastructure from now up to 2030.
Je pense aussi aux contributions des grandes fédérations et ligues présentes aujourd'hui.
So I would like also to think and thank the great federations that have contributed as well.
Qu'il s'agisse de la construction de 1000 terrains de basket par la
Might this
NBA,
be for the building of 1,000 fields for basketball
for NBA, by NBA et de 1000 terrains de football par la FIFA.
and also 1,000 football fields by FIFA?
Comme l'a souligné le président de la République Emmanuel Macron lors du sommet du 25 juillet,
As this has been underlined by French President Emmanuel Macron during the summit of 25th of July,
le sport est un objectif en soi,
sports is an objective by its own,
un objectif pour notre jeunesse,
an objective for our youth,
un objectif pour améliorer la qualité de vie,
an objective to improve the life quality,
un objectif parce qu'il fait partager des expériences.
an objective because it allows us to share experiences.
C'est pourquoi nous devons tous continuer d'investir dans le sport,
And that's why all of us, we should carry on investing in sport,
dans la formation et dans l'essor des infrastructures sportives.
in training and in sport infrastructure development.
Constante dans cet engagement, la France participera activement à cette dynamique
And France will still participate in this dynamic because it wants to remain constant in the sport development.
en particulier grâce à l'action de notre réseau diplomatique et de l'Agence française de développement.
and in particular through the French Agency for Development and our diplomatic channel.
Nous avons l'ambition de consacrer 500 millions d'euros d'ici 2030.
And our ambition up to 2030 is to dedicate 500 million of euros.
À des projets de sport et de développement à l'international.
This for sports and sports project development on international scale.
Et je suis fier de vous indiquer que nous sommes sur la bonne trajectoire.
And I'm very proud to tell you that we are in a very good trajectory.
230 millions d'euros ont déjà été déployés.
230 million euros have already been deployed.
Ils permettent de soutenir des fédérations,
And that is allowing to support federations,
des associations locales ou des ONG
local associations and NGOs,
qui partout font rayonner les valeurs du sport.
and which everywhere is bringing light to the development of sport.
Ils visent aussi à appuyer l'organisation de grands événements sportifs
So this targets also the organizations of important sports events
comme les Jeux olympiques de la jeunesse Dakar 2026.
like the Youth Olympic Games in 2026, Dakar.
Car vous le savez, en Afrique du Sud particulièrement,
Because as you might know, and in particular in South Africa,
ces grands événements sont aussi un formidable vecteur de développement.
these major events are also a tool for the development.
C'est pourquoi ils doivent aussi s'inscrire dans une logique de durabilité.
That's why this should also be in the logic of sustainability.
Ainsi, au-delà de la célébration des valeurs et des exploits sportifs,
Hence, beyond sports,
la France a souhaité que l'organisation des Jeux de Paris
France has wished that the organization of Paris Games
s'accompagne d'un héritage écologique,
be accompanied by an ecological heritage,
économique,
economic,
social et international.
social, and international.
Nous avons d'abord relevé le défi de faire des Jeux de Paris les plus responsables de l'histoire.
So first of all, we wanted the Paris Games to be the more responsible in history.
L'empreinte carbone des Jeux était 54% plus faible que celle des éditions de 2012 et 2016.
So the gas emission for that period were 54% less than the games, what was emitted in 2012.
Sur le plan économique, les Jeux ont permis de créer 60 000 emplois.
So economically, these games allowed 60,000 employment created.
Et d'insérer 4 000 personnes sur les chantiers,
And to have 4,000 people on the building site,
dont 25% de jeunes.
among them, 25% of those employed were youth.
Paris 2024 est également une avancée en matière d'inclusion
So Paris 2024 was also a good lesson of inclusion.
avec 2,4 millions de billets vendus pour les Jeux olympiques, un record historique.
With 2.4 million tickets sold, this is a record in history.
La sensibilisation du public au parasport a changé les perceptions du handicap.
So the awareness to the public on para sports have changed the perception of those who were physically challenged.
Sur notre histoire et je l'espère à travers le monde.
And this was from our history, and I think this will be like that worldwide.
La France est également fière d'avoir accueilli les premiers Jeux avec le même nombre d'athlètes féminines et masculins.
So France is also proud to be the first country to organize this game with the very same number of male and female.
L'ensemble des projets mêlant sport et développement doivent renforcer la pratique féminine
So I think the involvement of female should also promote their participation in sports
en adéquation avec nos valeurs.
together with our values.
Enfin, les Jeux ont été pour nous un moteur de solidarité.
So lastly, these games were for us a way to express solidarity.
Je pense aux 41 000 volontaires
So I'm thinking about the 41,000 voluntary
dont 9000 volontaires internationaux
among which 9,000 were international,
qui étaient le cœur battant de ces Jeux extraordinaires.
and they were on the heart of the organization and the success of these games.
Je salue enfin l'investissement de notre réseau diplomatique et l'AFD
So I would like to thank our diplomatic network and the AFC,
AFD, French Agents of Development, qui ont soutenu 300 projets valorisant le sport à travers le monde.
who have supported 300 projects giving value to sport in the world.
Nous espérons ainsi avoir fait émerger un nouveau standard pour les grands événements sportifs plus responsables.
So we hope that we have raised the bar high for the consideration of these kinds of events.
Mon vœu est que ces efforts puissent inspirer les futurs pays hôtes.
So my wish is that our way of doing things might inspire the new host countries,
à qui il reviendra de pousser encore plus loin le niveau d'exigence.
to which the responsibility will come to move forward the success and the way of doing things.
Je sais que cette ambition est partagée par le Sénégal et le comité d'organisation des Jeux olympiques de la jeunesse.
And I know that this ambition is shared by Senegal and the Olympic Committee for the youth.
Nous aurons à cœur de les accompagner vers le succès des premières Olympiades en Afrique.
So heartily, we will be willing to support them for this first organization of the Olympic Games on the African soil.
Nous resterons aussi pleinement engagés pour déployer l'accord de Paris sur le sport pour le développement.
So we will remain committed to accompany them in the Paris Accord for the development of sport.
Et je sais pouvoir compter sur notre mobilisation collective.
And I think you may also count on our collective mobilization,
Car le travail d'équipe est au cœur des valeurs sportives qui nous réunissent.
because you know the work in a group is at the heart of what is uniting us and what will lead us to success.
Merci à toutes et à tous de votre attention.
Thank you
so
to
much.
everyone for your attention.
Thank you so much, Minister. 3 words, and I'm going to ask you to stay with me, come here. 3 words: that youth, climate, legacy, and investment, right? 10 billions investment commitment up to 2030. That's big time. Thank you very much. What we're going to do, as you know, we're in sports and we like to innovate. So I'm going to ask all the speakers to kindly come and join us on stage for the official pictures. Because I know some of you guys have some commitments, so please join me. Join me, I see you. Dr. Chipande, Claire, Penda, Hamid, come join me here. Sergio, please. Can they? Yes. What? Je crois qu'on a... Okay. Voila. So here we go. Can we have the official pictures, please? A fantastic lineup of speakers for the first ever Sports for Sustainable Development at the Fix 2025 here in Cape Town. And for all those people online, stay connected. What we have coming up next is going to be super exciting. Thank you all. Thank you very much. You can please kindly go back to your seats. Appreciate you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, guys. Okay, first panel. And this one is probably one of my favorite. Very exciting one. One thing I wanted to say earlier, we are in sports business and we like to talk straight, right? We have the best in the game here, the best in the financial world, development financial world, but the best in sports as well. And I'm going to call on stage 3 speakers that, to me, are, again, one of the best in the game. The first one is coming from France. Many, many years ago, he was one of the first ones to bring together the financial development world and the world of sports. He's behind a partnership with FIFA, IOC, NBA. I'm from basketball, so I'm a little bit biased here. NBA, obviously, but he's probably one of the best in the game when it comes to financial development, but also partnership. Please bring it together for Mr. Rémi Rioux, the chairman of FIX and the CEO of the French Development Agency. Merci. All right, our second guest now. She's coming from Italy. 25 years of top-level experience in finance. She works at the World Bank, UN Ministry of Finance in Italy. She is the ambassador of FIX, but she's also the CEO of ICSC, which is a unique model from Italy, a bank dedicated to sports and culture. Please, a warm welcome to Mrs. Antonella Baldino. All right, and our last guest is coming from Singapore. He's been 17 years IOC board member. He's the chairman of the Finance Commission at IOC, the International Olympic Committee, Mr. Sermiang Nge. Guys, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining. We've called this panel From Paris to Cape Town, what is the future of sports for sustainable development? Obviously, Paris was where we planted that seed, and it's obviously growing today. Mr. Rioux, may I ask you to answer that question, maybe from the podium? What is the future of sports for sustainable development?
Thank you, Will. Good morning, everybody. It's a great pleasure for this work on bringing the benefit of sports for sustainable development to reach a new milestone, a new step. Yes, after this journey, we started together with Will, the NBA, other colleagues, back in 2016, if I'm right. So soon a decade of hard work to gather all of you in this direction. I want to thank my minister, Dear Tani, pour ses mots inspirants en français, bien sûr, ministre de la francophonie. I want to thank the IOC, Mr. Vice President, member of IOC. I want to thank the public banks, Boitu Melo, DBSA, ICSC, Cassa Depositi e Prestiti in Italy, also the World Bank Group that will be represented by Sergio Pimenta, Vice President of IFC, and all of you in this room. It may look surprising in a serious meeting like Finance in Common is, with ties and discussion about how to finance sustainable development, to talk about culture, to talk about sports, but that would be really a misunderstanding. And there's no better place than South Africa after Paris to demonstrate, as our sister Boitu Melo just made it, the power of sport, the heritage of Nelson Mandela, playing the enemy, if I'm right, during the Rugby World Cup in 1995. Actually, Benazi scored, but anyway, it was for reconciliation, and it was a a political masterpiece using sports for this endeavor, and it has continued in South Africa with the FIFA World Cup in 2010, and also myriads of local initiatives at AFD. We know very well Waves for Change here in Cape Town, or the Zip Zap Circus, to provide inclusiveness through sports. Yes, now, Will, it's time for action. It's time for action. We know the inspiration, we know the narrative, I think it's here. People are paying attention. We have a political mandate, I think, yes, that was set. Minister was reminding us July 25th. We had 55 heads of state in the room, and they made that declaration about sports for education and employment, sports for health and nutrition. Ambassador Briopon is here. Sports for sustainability, more broadly speaking. So we have the guidance from the political level. We have the biggest sports federations committed. You mentioned the figures, thousands of actions that we have to deploy now. And more we have the financial sector also. Antonella, of course, will explain it better than I, with through this coalition within Finance in Common that is willing to scale what we are observing on the ground. So let's accelerate now sports for sustainable development. It's also in many international summits for now. And Ambassador is here. We know that Senegal will take the baton with the Youth Olympic Games, so important in Dakar, end 2026. There will be an interesting also work between Italy and France with the Winter Olympics. There's probably something special also to deliver by 2026 and 2030. Then Los Angeles, Brisbane, and also Morocco in 2030 with the FIFA World Cup. So we know the timeline, and hopefully at each step we will have pushed this effort further. You can count, as the Minister said, on AFD. We commit to 500 million to be invested in sports for development by 2030, and we are on track. Already 200 projects worldwide that we have financed. And
sorry, Remy, I just have to interrupt you here just to make sure I understand correctly.
yes,
500 million will be committed over
by 2030.
by 2030.
By 2030.
500 million committed. Thank you very much. I like that.
And again, it's for impact. It's also for economic growth. All of us who have interest in developing sports markets for our companies, for our economies. And last point is, of course, the public banks. They are bridges. They are bridges. And so what we want to do is really to accompany the other actors to do it. It means the government, of course. They committed. It means the private sector, of course. Sergio will certainly speak about the Helios Fund we are invested in. It means also local authorities. It means academics. Will, you're deeply involved in measuring impact through sport. That's extremely important to demonstrate the result. And last announcement, as you know it, we are preparing with the World Bank a unique report on measuring the impact of sports for development, hopefully by Dakar, to demonstrate again, illustrify what I'm talking about. So let's finance sport as a cornerstone for sustainable development, and I thank you all.
Thank you very much, Remy Rioux. Thank you. One key word is commitment. And talking commitment, our next speaker, Antonella, will ask you to jump here on the podium, talking about your action with ICS.
Thank you, Will, and thank you, and good morning, everyone. Let me also compliment Remy and Boitumelo for their leadership and the hosting institutions and organizer, also for their innovative and forward-looking approach to development policy in placing sport and culture center stage as a catalyst for sustainable growth. So the very reason we are all here today, Will, is because we all recognize the iconic words of Nelson Mandela on the importance of sport. And his first sport investment forum is the perfect opportunity to upscale the collaboration of public development banks and our shared strategies in development. For all these reasons, I'm particularly proud to be here today, representing the Italian Istituto per il Credito Sportivo e Culturale, ICSC, one of the very few public development banks in the world with a specific mandate to promote inclusive, equitable, and sustainable growth through sport and culture. ICSC is a leading institution in sport financing with almost 70 years of experience supporting local public authorities, companies, sporting institutions, and other organizations by combining a public mandate and a market-oriented approach. We act as a playing field where public interest and market risk appetite can meet, and as a pivot to strike the right balance between the public intervention and market conditions. So a business model that effectively unites sport and social development, its impact as a global industry and its growing recognition as an asset class. An approach which we are also actively promoting as a part of the Financing Common ecosystem within the Coalition on Sustainable Development Through Sport, a coalition launched in 2020, which has played a growing role in the international stage, and 2024 marked an important milestone in its progress. Firstly, during the summit on sport for sustainable development held on the eve of the Paris Olympic and Paralympic Games, I had the honor to share the stage with Remy Riou to announce two groundbreaking initiatives. One, it has been already mentioned, is the commitment of public development banks to invest up to $10 billion by 2030 in sport infrastructure projects, grassroots sport activities and research, and the launch of a global sport impact fund. 2024 was also a year where the theme of sport was introduced for the first time in the G7 agenda under the Italian presidency, and which saw also the participation of our coalition alongside other organizations, IOC, UNESCO, OECD, among others. And the initiative was endorsed in the final communiqué, where explicitly support was given to the increasing engagement of public development banks in investing in sport and to promoting the uptake of new financial instruments such as the Global Sport Impact Fund. An initiative was important, goes beyond the mere identification of a new financial instrument. It concerns our ability to be visionary about new sectors of collaboration to implement development in the right way. It is part of a new frontier of cooperation with our partner institution at global and local level. An initiative that would translate also the spirit of our coalition, which we hope will be joined by other partner, national, promotional, and international institutions, as well as the private sector. So also in a view of and looking at the 2026 Olympic Games and the Winter Olympic Games, Olympic and Paralympic Games in Milano Cortina, let's keep the ball rolling. by continuing to leverage the power of sport to open new frontiers and create opportunity for all to leverage this power, the power of sport for development and for peace. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Antonella Baldino. And we talked about mega events, the Olympic Games, a multi-billion-dollar event coming up every 4 years for the summer. And for the first time in Africa with the Youth Olympic Games, Senegal will be hosting that in 2026. I'm calling at the podium someone who knows everything about the International Olympic Committee. Please, Mr. Ser Myang Nga.
Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to be with you today at this forum. On behalf of the International Olympic Committee, allow me to thank Finance in Common, the Fixed Sports Coalition, the Development Bank of Southern Africa, and the Asia Infrastructure Investment Bank for hosting this highly important forum. And also, thank you for your commitment to advancing the important role of sport as an enabler of sustainable development. A role powerfully demonstrated by the Olympic and Paralympic Games Paris 2024. The game that has brought the world together in peaceful competition and provided a symbol of hope in challenging times. With athletes from the territories of 208 206 national Olympic committees and the IOC refugee team competing and living together peacefully. These were also the first games to achieve gender parity on the field of play, thanks to the distribution of an equal number of quota to female and male athletes. In terms of the environment, carbon emission were reduced by 54.6% compared to previous games. Around 5 billion people, 84% of potential global audience, followed the games. In consumer insight studies, over 3/4 of those surveyed said that they believe that the Olympic Games are more important than ever in a divided world, that the IOC was successful in building a better world through sport. And a legacy was generated that extended beyond the field of play. The adoption of 30 minutes of exercise daily in 36,800 French primary schools as a national policy, and projection of 9 billion of net economic benefits for the Paris region are just two of these examples. The Paris Summit on Sport Sustainable Development held on the eve of Paris 2024 also marked an important milestone. Notably, through the commitment made by the Fixed Coalition on Sports for Sustainable Development to invest $10 billion in community-based, inclusive, and sustainable sports infrastructure and projects by 2030, which you have also heard from the minister earlier on. The announcement of the first Impact Fund for Development through Sport, to be managed by coalition partners, are also an important step forward. As we have heard, these are actions acknowledged by the G7 development ministers. This development represents an important shift from merely recognizing sports to intend concrete action and investment. The IOC can attest to the impact of investment that can garner based on our cooperation with our many partners from the UN family, development organizations, civil society, and a small but growing number of public development banks. Through the collective approach, we are supporting 550 sports for development initiatives across 176 countries, developing on the key pillar of our Olympic agenda to strengthen the role of sport as an important enabler of the UN Sustainable Development Goal. Take, for example, our work with the World Health Organization to reduce the economic burden of physical inactivity that globally costs the public health system $27 billion per year. Together, we are facilitating partnership between sports and public health organizations, training health workers to promote community sport, and continuing our Let's Move campaign, which has already inspired 500 million people around the world to move. Our cooperation with AFD and the World Network of Civil Society Partners focus on assisting 1 in 4 young people globally out of education and employment. Through our cooperation, tens of thousands of young people are accessing sports-based programs, supporting them to develop transferable and employable skills. This is complemented by the Olympic Values Education Program, reaching millions of young people and delivering encouraging results, supporting attendance as well as retention. All our work with UN Climate together, we have assembled over 300 organizations as part of the UN Sports for Climate Action Framework, helping to reduce carbon emissions, promote conservation, and support energy transition within the sport movement. These are not just examples. And through the powerful symbolism of the Olympic refugee team and impactful work of the Olympic Refuge Foundation, we have also witnessed improvements in the mental health and well-being, protection and inclusion of displaced communities worldwide, demonstrating that when effectively planned and sustainably and financed, sport is a low-cost but high-impact intervention, delivering valuable economic and social returns. The International Olympic Committee is committed to play our role, including through a 10% increase in the budget for our Olympic Solidarity Program for the next Olympiad, over which we will invest $650 million. And in this context, I would like to conclude by reiterating the key message and call for action made by the IOC President Thomas Bach at the Paris Summit, that it is only by government, business, civil society, and the development financing community joining hands that we can fully realize the potential of sport as an enabler for sustainable development. The FIGS community have a key role to play in mobilizing and fostering sustainable and inclusive financing for sports-based projects and initiatives. This forum, the first ever sports investment forum at FIGS, offers an invaluable platform to advance concrete actions towards this objective, and doing so through our deliberations. Let us also be inspired by the Olympic motto, faster, higher, stronger, and most importantly, let's do it together. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. And unfortunately, that's all we have time for. Thank you very much, Joel. I appreciate it. Stronger, faster, and together. I like that. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'll keep that. Thank you. And I think we're moving on to a nice little video.
I have seen the power of sport to bring people together, to bridge social divides.
Sports are a powerful driver of change, and investment in equal gender sports could not be more urgent now.
We need to go faster, higher, stronger, and we can only achieve sustainable development together.
Mettre le pouvoir du sport, d'inspiration, d'innovation et d'action au cœur de nos trajectoires de développement durable.
Our Financing Common Sport Coalition will invest $10 billion by 2030.
On peut vraiment développer des synergies entre les choses qui existent déjà et être beaucoup plus efficace pour lutter aussi contre les inégalités.
Le Sénégal accueillera le premier événement de l'olympisme en Afrique avec les Jeux olympiques de la jeunesse. C'est un honneur que nous partageons avec notre continent.
Wow, that was powerful. If I tell you Drogba, Samuel Eto'o, Maradona maybe, does he ring a bell? Are you still with me? All right, okay. So Drogba, Samuel Eto'o, Maradona, Pelé, and so on and so forth. Football has this unbelievable power to inspire us all. And here, we're going to quickly put on a quick message for our friends at FIFA.
Dear presidents, ministers, colleagues, friends, cher Rémi, hello to everyone at the 5th Finance in Common Summit in beautiful, beautiful Cape Town, South Africa. It is a pleasure to address you today, and I thank you for recognizing the role that sport plays in sustainable development. From the football perspective, I wanted to say a few words about the work we do at FIFA, and most importantly, the work we do together, because collaboration is key to driving meaningful and sustainable change through sport. We all know from experience how football, the #1 sport in the world, is a major engine of socio-economic development worldwide. And it also plays a key role in contributing to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Not only that, but all of you, as supporters of the Finance in Common Summit, are committed to harnessing the power of football, an economic sector with tremendous potential to drive social change through investment, development, and by creating a legacy for future generations of girls and boys around the world through major events. When I mean major events, I regard these as global tournaments that affect the entire world. That can be the 2010 FIFA World Cup, which was staged here in South Africa, or the new and upcoming FIFA Club World Cup, which takes place between 14th of June and 13th of July 2025 in the United States of America. 32 clubs, the best clubs in the world, including South Africa's Mamelodi Sundowns, will compete in the most inclusive club competition ever. Clubs from each of the 6 continents will contest 63 matches in 12 beautiful, beautiful stadiums to eventually crown the official FIFA Club World Champion. It will be a game changer for club football and will help to deliver on FIFA's position to make football truly global. And if that's not enough, then in 2026, the FIFA World Cup in the United States, Mexico, and Canada will feature 48 teams for the very first time. And it will be a tournament that will have a huge, huge social and economic impact on all 3 host countries, with 104 matches taking place in 16 wonderful cities across 3 amazing countries. It will be the greatest show the world has ever seen. Through these tournaments, we want to make an impact, of course, but it must be a sustainable and lasting impact that benefits everyone, especially future generations. That is why, during the Sports for Sustainable Development Summit, organized by the Agence Française de Développement in Paris in July last year, I made an important commitment on FIFA's behalf. As part of our FIFA Football for Schools program, we pledged to install at least 1,000 sustainable mini football pitches in or around schools, mainly around the world, in support of the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. These pitches are aimed at providing sustainable football infrastructure, particularly to people living in disadvantaged inner city or rural areas, thus enabling access to the sport. Over the past 6 months, FIFA has launched a pilot phase of this program in partnership with the AFD, working in 4 countries: Benin, Comoros, Côte d'Ivoire, and Rwanda. In each of these countries, we are working hand in hand with the Ministries of National Education and the Ministries of Sport to ensure that starting this year, the first pitches will be inaugurated in schools that have received AFD funding. This initiative is more than just building pitches. It is about creating safe spaces for children to learn, to play, and to grow. It is about fostering inclusion, inspiring youth, and using football as a powerful tool for social change. We are confident that this pilot phase will showcase the incredible potential of collaboration between the sports and development sectors. Together, we can accelerate access to education and empower both girls and boys through football, helping them develop not just football players, but future citizens. Also, at that event in Paris, I reiterated that FIFA would continue to invest in our solidarity programs in partnership with our 211 FIFA member associations. Through the FIFA For All program and via other initiatives such as Football for Schools and the FIFA Talent Development Scheme, by 2026, we will have invested $5 billion in a 10-year span for the sustainable development of football everywhere in the world and for everyone in the world. That is why we continue, and we must continue working together on key global issues like accessibility, climate change, education, finance, inclusion, infrastructure, sustainable growth, and of course, technology. In concluding, as I tell everyone, and I truly believe it, football unites the world. And at FIFA, we want football to unite the world in peace, in passion, and in joy. So let's use the beauty and power of the sport we all love to make the world a better place for girls and boys everywhere without any barriers. Dear friends, thank you. Thank you all. And I wish you all a productive summit. Keep doing what you are doing. I look forward to speaking and meeting with some of you very soon. I wish you again all the very best. Thank you very much. Bye.
Gianni Infantino, and the 2026 World Cup is coming soon, as you know, and it's also coming to Africa, actually, you know. That's 2030 in Morocco. So we've been doing panels. I want to hear now from people here in the audience. And let me start with UNESCO. UNESCO, because education and sports are truly intertwined. So I'm going to come here. Please rise with me and join me here, Mr. Merino. And we are going to try to understand how sports and education are intertwined. And I'm so sorry to do that, but you know, this is the beauty of sports. We're going to ask you to go short, straight to the point, pragmatic, insightful. In less than 2 minutes.
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for the organizers, and wow, to South Africa organizing events is amazing. Well, we all know, we've known for a long time that sports is very important for a healthy lifestyle, for physical and mental health. But there's much more to sports than that. We know, and there's growing evidence on the impact of sports for development, on factors such as education, you were talking about. It could improve learning outcomes, it improves school attendance, reduces dropout rates. It's important for the workplace, it creates, elevates productivity, it creates conditions for teamwork and other useful skills. It's important for inclusion and for empowerment, and it's important for social cohesion and the prevention of violence. So sports is very important for so many things, and it's not a purview only of sport ministries. It's very important that sport is seen as relevant for all policy areas. It's a cost-effective way to promote development. It has been said by some of the colleagues already. It's a way it really enhances the developmental objectives, and we must see it that way. So again, sports is not just an issue to look at of relevance to sport ministries. It's important to all policy areas. So it's really a pleasure for UNESCO. It's great to be part of this coalition of sport for sustainable development. We've been working hard on this issue. UNESCO is the UN agency with a mandate on sports. And for instance, last year we issued several reports which are very relevant for the topic discussed today. We had a report on the social impact of sport, precisely gathering the evidence around it, providing a methodology to think about this, and identifying the research gaps, because we still need a lot of research, a lot of information to provide the evidence that we need to ensure that everybody understands the relevance of sports, and it creates an incentive for economy ministries, finance ministries, and of course public development banks to support sport, to invest in sports. So we're going to be keeping working on that. We're part of the coalition. We're working with all the members, and especially with the CAF, the Development Bank of Latin America, also on pilot projects, on research, making sure it's open access. So I will end with that, and thank you all for being here and for your support for this important endeavor.
Gustavo Merino, thank you very much. UNESCO is about partnership, and you're part of the coalition, as we understand. And there's a gentleman that I would like to ask to join us. He's all about partnership, actually. He works for the Global Partnership for Education, Mr. Bele Adese. Please join me.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Adese, go ahead. We want to hear about sports and the GPE. Again, we have less than 2 minutes. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you all. I think, moderator, you earlier rightly mentioned what the great Nelson Mandela said about sports. Mandela also said that education is the most powerful weapon we can use to change the world. So imagine if we use both tools, imagine what can happen. So I must thank FD and Mr. Remy Rieu for bringing us together. The Global Partnership for Education, GPE, is both a partnership and a fund, and it was born out of an unshakable belief that every child deserves the hope, opportunity, and agency that a quality education brings. Since the year 2002, we have raised more than 11 billion funds for education, helping our partner countries in Africa and beyond to get over 160 million children in school. And that way we have also doubled girls' enrollment. The relationship between sport and education is very well established. Research telling us that sports play a pivotal role in keeping children in school, reducing dropout rates, and enhancing their educational outcomes. Especially for girls, engaging in sports will help them stay enrolled, build resilience, and break down gender barriers. As you can all know, engaging in sports improves cognitive functions, concentration in the classroom, and problem-solving capabilities. So there is no question about the importance of sports in promoting education outcomes, learning outcomes. Sport can also teach values such as fairness, team building, equality, discipline, and respect. So that's why we are here to collaborate with sports partners. At GPE, we partner with 40 African countries in their ambition to transform their education systems. We see huge potential in Africa as a dynamic hub on the global sports stage. We feel we need to and must harness this dynamism to ensure no child is left behind. GP is supporting sports in different ways. For example, in Mali, we are financing the provision of sports equipment to secondary schools. In Burundi, in collaboration with AFD, we have been implementing play-based learning in schools, and we have a number of African countries that have identified sports as a priority in their education transformation agenda. Finally, I am pleased to share that a lot is mentioned by AFD and FIFA earlier, that we at GP are exploring partnership with FIFA and AFD on how we can work together to support countries who are prioritizing education and sports. The establishment of GPE's regional hub in Nairobi is going to be crucial to help the implementation of this collaboration through closer engagement with countries in the region. Africa-based sports people, organizations, and teams are changing the world of sport, and we hope to harness this drive and ambition to help every child to learn. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bailey. Really appreciate you. You did respect the 2 minutes mark. I'm going to ask the next speaker to do just the same. She's the acting ambassador of Senegal. And as I mentioned earlier, Senegal is hosting the 2026 Youth Olympic Games. So it's an honor. You're making history. Please, Penda Ngisendiaye, join me here. And here's the mic for you. Penda. Nangref? We can speak in Wolof if you prefer.
No, in French.
Yeah, go.
I prefer in French.
You prefer in French?
Yes.
OK, on va parler en français. Alors dans ce cas, vous allez avoir que 1 minute, parce qu'il va falloir que je traduise en même temps.
Oui.
Ah voilà, donc vous avez 1 minute, c'est parti.
Voilà, je suis très honorée d'être aujourd'hui présente ici
I'm very happy and pleased to be here today
pour représenter le ministère de la Jeunesse, des Sports et de la Culture du Sénégal.
to introduce the Ministry of Sports, Youth and Culture of the great land of Senegal.
Nous remercions les organisateurs, M. Rioux,
Thank you so much to the organizer, Remy Rio, the FIX committee.
et nous remercions nos partenaires traditionnels. Et nous remercions M. le ministre qui vient de partir, le ministre à la francophonie.
And we thanks all our partners, including the Minister of Francophonie of France.
Les 4e Jeux olympiques de la jeunesse d'été se tiendront pendant 2 semaines à partir du 31 octobre 2026 à Dakar, au Sénégal.
The first Youth Olympic Game will be held in Dakar, Senegal, on the 21st of October 2026.
Le premier événement olympique organisé sur le sol africain.
Say that again? It's the first event organized, the first Youth Olympic Games organized in the land of Africa.
Ces Jeux se dérouleront sur 3 sites, Dakar, Diamniadio et Thiès.
The game will be held in 3 different locations, Dakar, Diamniadio, and Thiès.
Et ont l'ambition de servir de catalyseur à la transformation du Sénégal par le sport.
Oh, I love that. And those games will be used as a catalyst for the great transformation of the country of Senegal. Il vous reste 10 secondes.
Le sport et la culture sont les leviers de développement économique et social, mais aussi des facteurs de cohésion sociale.
Sports is indeed a used vehicle for social cohesion, but also social transformation.
Comme je n'ai pas trop de temps, je vais juste vous donner 6 projets, juste les lister, ne pas entrer dans les détails, pour les partager avec les investisseurs ici présents et les banques.
Madame l'ambassadrice, comme moi je veux revenir au Sénégal, je vais vous donner 3 seulement, pardon. Je suis vraiment désolé. 3 projets,
bon.
Allez.
Il y a un projet de construction d'infrastructures sportives de proximité.
Okay, the first project he wants to highlight in Senegal, construction of sporting infrastructure.
Je veux dire le projet de construction de la maison des jeunes et de la citoyenneté, c'est dans 557 communes de Dakar.
557 locations. This is the youth house. Youth houses will be being built right now in Dakar. 537.
We're going to rebuild the stadium Léopold Sédar Senghor.
Ooh, I like that. You don't need me for that translation.
That's, yeah. Yes. And last but not least,
we're
going to build l'hippodrome national.
The building of the National Hippodrome.
C'est aménager un grand complexe sportif moderne pouvant accueillir des courses hippiques et des compétitions de sports équestres.
Okay, a great location to host horse riding major event. Mrs. Penda
Thank you very much.
Lisendia, thank you so very much. You went over 2 minutes, by the way. All right, that's our last speaker. Is coming from the African Union Sports Council. You know how important institutions are in Africa. This is the premier one, African Sports Council, African Union Sports Council. Dr. Decius Chipande, please share a word with us.
Thank you, Excellencies. Big thanks, of course, to the organizers of the summit and also for inviting the African Union and the African Union Sports Council. The summit, of course, is in line with the decisions of African Union policy organs that endorsed or emphasize the importance of sport to contribute towards the achievement of the African Union Agenda 2063 aspirations of the Africa we want, which is Africa's strategic framework for inclusive social and economic development. And just to touch on the policy framework from the African Union side, ministers responsible for sports in the African Union endorsed the African Union Policy for Sustainable Development of Sports in Africa in 2023, and this policy is implemented through the African Union Sports Council strategic plan, and with the overall goal of strengthening performance of African athletes at global level, and also using sport, of course, for economic and social development. And to achieve this, of course, investment in sport by the public and private sector is critical. And of course, the benefits have already been elucidated by several previous speakers. And from our end, as African Union Sports Council, of course, in collaboration with the German Development Corporation through GIZ Sports for Development in Africa Regional Project, we're in the process of finalizing an M&E framework to capture the diverse impacts of sports on the African continent, as well as, hopefully using it for assessing potential returns on investment. And we are keenly interested in inclusion, equity, safeguarding, education, youth employment, economic participation in and through sports. And in conclusion...
One second, yeah, I appreciate the conclusion, but I just want you to say very simply, what is that tool that you're putting out there for investors? What is it measuring? Please.
Perfect, that's a very good question. So,
and you have 10 seconds.
Oh, thank you. So we are putting together, of course, with the support with GIZ, we are putting together a digital monitoring and evaluation framework that is going to measure, or at least help us gather data across the African continent to assess the contribution of sports towards economic and social development, and particularly in the African Union framework, how sports contributes towards, the Agenda 2063 aspirations of the Africa we want. And within this framework, of course, it is critical that, of course, this can be used, to measure, assess potential returns on investment.
I appreciate that.
With this discussion, yes.
Thank you very much. This is Dr. Decius Chipande from the African Union Sports Council. And now we're moving on to our very last panel. No need for the video. We're going to move straight on to the very last panel because we're running short of time. This is one of the most exciting, if not the most exciting panel of all. I'm going to ask my panelists to join me. Claire Akamanzi from the NBA, Hamid Taufiki, Sergio Pimenta. Please join me here. We're going to go for the very last panel. All right. Thank you so very much. Pressure's time. Look, last panel of the day, panel is dedicated to finance. We talk about sustainable development. I think we all agree here that sports is definitely transformative when it comes to the social front. But also sports is also a business, and it could become a very profitable business. I call it a unique asset class in investment. I personally call it that way. But today we have 3 experts in the game that's going to share their views. Let me start with Sergio. Sergio, amazing track record, former Polytechnic, by the way. He was the head of industry, manufacturing, and servicing for IFC. Today is the regional vice president for IFC. Sergio, you guys broke the news recently with the investment in Helios of Nigeria, investment in sports and entertainment. Please tell us more about what IFC is doing in sports and entertainment.
Well, thank you very much, Will, and it's a pleasure to be here, and congratulations on this very, very interesting event. The way you've been conducting it, I think you're really bringing all the different perspectives around sport, and a lot of it was very exciting. I hope when we talk about numbers and about money, it's also exciting, because without funding, without financing, the sector will not develop. So on the IFC side, we do take the sector very seriously. This is something that we have started a few years ago, and over the last 2 years, globally, we have invested in sports and in creative industries over $850 million.
How much?
850 million.
850?
Yes, including a part in Africa. Not enough to my taste, and this is why I really want us to increase what we're doing in sports and entertainment and in cultural industries and creative industries in Africa. We have a dedicated team based in Rabat who's been traveling around the region with colleagues in the different hubs, identifying the right projects to do. One that is very exciting is the one that we're doing with Helios Sports and Entertainment Group. This is a Pan-African structure, and we are going to, IFC is actually leading a funding of $75 million. We will put on our own account, we will put 30 million. Proparco is working with us and will come with 20 million. And this is very exciting because this, what this financing will be for is to finance stadiums, to finance arenas, venues. Because in Africa, you need a network of arenas where sports events and cultural events can take place. You have an incredible amount of talent in Africa. If you want, a lot of them sometimes around the world, they're not based in Africa, they want to come back. For them to come and play in Africa, perform in Africa, you need this network of arenas to be well managed in a way that they can come and do their activities.
Absolutely. So if I understand correctly, 75 million is the amount, and there's only one vertical or multiple verticals? You mentioned infrastructure, which you rightfully said. Are there other verticals within that investment?
So it's actually a very comprehensive investment because, yes, the bulk of the money goes to infrastructure because that's what capital intensive, but it's also connecting with the entertainment aspect, so the media side. And this is one of the aspects that when we look at the evolution of sports, not just in Africa but around the world, is that the new technologies, media is completely changing the nature of the industry. It's monetizing it, and it's bringing also sources of revenues that allow to do more investment, create more jobs, create more activities. And so there are multiple verticals, yes.
Excellent. That's a big time signal you're sending to the market, and I like the model because it's not only IFC, but it's also Proparco, Group AFD, obviously the French development agency, and some private investors. So it's basically a consortium of a partnership that you're investing into sports and entertainment. I like what you said as well with regards to arena and infrastructure. If you want to host the biggest event in the world, we do need to have a home to do so. And some people who have done that, the Basketball Africa League with the NBA. Claire, how are you doing, Claire? You're good?
Good, thank you.
Excellent. So NBA has invested tremendously on the continent, opening up multiple offices, launching new initiatives, and obviously launching a professional league, the Basketball Africa League. Why is that? Why does it make sense? Why does it make business sense to invest in sports?
Good morning, or is it afternoon now? Very good to see all of you. I think we like fans that are resilient and stay till the end, and that's what you're doing today, so thank you for being with us today. So how many of you followed the Olympics and saw South Sudan play against the US and against other teams from the world? I think many of you saw that, yeah? And one of the stories I like about that is that among the South Sudanese teams was a young man called Kaman. Kaman was a refugee in Uganda from South Sudan, walking from school one day, and the scout looks at him and looks at his height and says, "Have you ever played basketball?" And he had never. And this person interested him, a boy from school who is in Uganda from South Sudan, to start playing basketball. 4 years later, that young man, Kaman, was in Paris playing basketball on the same court as Steph Curry, LeBron James, and many other big names that you know. That is the power of basketball and the power of sports in giving opportunities to young people in Africa. And so, where are we investing in sports? Because there's so many Kamans in the world walking every day in our streets. Our role as NBA and as BAL is to give opportunities to those young people to unleash their talent so they can be competitive in the world. What are we doing specifically? We've invested in a league. How many of you have heard of BAL? Basketball Africa League. Okay, almost everybody. That's good. I think we're doing a good job. BAL has been around only for 4 years. And over the last 4 years, we did a study this year and found that we contributed $250 million to the economies of Africa. Just 4 countries host BAL a year. And we contributed a $250 million in GDP by just hosting BAL in 4 years. Imagine how much more economic opportunities we can give our countries if more countries host BAL and if more teams play within the BAL. That is the future that we are building today. The other interesting thing is jobs. We found that over the last 4 years of BAL being in existence, we created 37,000 jobs for Africans. These jobs come through SMEs that supply from digital companies, marketing companies, transportation companies, security companies, creative companies, entertainment companies that all come together to produce a beautiful basketball game. Just like we saw today in the morning. This session started with entertainment. We saw talent in different form. That is exactly what basketball does. Brings talent, brings entertainment, and when all that come together, we see economic and social transformation for Africa, which is why we're investing in it.
Thank you, Claire. I appreciate it. I was at the BL, obviously, amazing experience. For those who haven't had a chance to attend, please join those games, and I'm sure Claire will host you gladly.
Very quickly, we tip off in Morocco.
Okay.
Morocco on 5th of April. We play after that we play in Senegal, we play in Rwanda, and we finish the finals here in South Africa in Pretoria. So please book your calendars, come and experience a beautiful basketball game on the continent.
Okay, that's great. VIP seats for all of you guys, courtesy of the NBA. Please, Hamid, we talked about Morocco. Morocco has been at the forefront of sports in all segments of sports. Sports tourism, events, investment. Talking investment, this is a premier institution that you're representing. CDG, la Caisse des dépôts et de gestion au Maroc. Hamid is the deputy CEO. Hamid, how is CDG playing a role in this mega event coming to Morocco? We have the AFCON, like Cannes, and we have the World Cup coming in 2030. What type of instrument, financial instrument, you're developing to support the growth of the economy through sports?
Thank you, Will. Prior to respond to your question, I must confess, the music is still roaring, by the way, and it rumbles, so we are also having this envy to dance. So I think the organizers did it on purpose. How can we resist? We, as a financial developer, banker, I think we are ready to sign whatever you want for all projects. This being said, in our institution, I think we say that we have to put together the heart and the brain to be able to do the right thing and doing it right. I think this is something which is for all institutions which is dedicated for development and finance. Because we need also to be financially sustained to be able to continue and have an impact. So let's back to your question regarding the 2 tournaments, because they are very important. Their promise is not only to elevate our nation profile on the global stage, but also to drive transformative social change from the grassroots to the highest level of our society. So first of all, I just want to do something in order to have a 360 degrees of what's happening, in fact, in Morocco with regard to the investment. So aside from the construction and the renovation of sport infrastructure, the World Cup preparation are accelerating investment in transportation, rural renewal, digital connectivity. Other priorities are in the agenda, such as water and energy. So all these investors are huge. I think, and the need to be able to have what we call blended finance, the state being involved and participate in the financing, but also local, domestic investor, and also international investor. So this is exactly what we need, and CDG is playing a role with the state in working concretely in structuring, in fact,
exactly.
the deal.
So that's exactly where I want you to go. We talked yesterday and before, we talked about structuring, because the people, the stakeholders in the ecosystem of sports don't necessarily have the level of knowledge that you guys have as financier. How can you please share with the audience, how do you help structuring deals for key stakeholders in sports? What value added you bring to the table for people who are after the money and the finances?
In fact, our expertise lies on the financial engineering, technical engineering, and also the ability to mobilize fund and investor. What we mean by structuring, which means that being involved at the root, in fact, of the transaction, to structure, in fact, the situation of the financing of the project, and to see what is need to be financed by the state, what can be financed by commercial banks. We set up structure that we are able to attract investor.
Blending financing.
Exactly.
Okay, so you bring together other...
And we can do it either through banking credit or using capital market instruments. And this is, in fact, the role that we play. We do not finance 100% the project, but we structure it, we co-finance it and co-invest it with other investors, and we are able to attract private investors. So this is, in fact, the idea.
And I guess you guarantee risk and you make it even more attractive. This is a great model. I'm so sorry we don't have much time left, so that's going to be the final round. Sergio, I had thousands of questions for you, but unfortunately we run out of time. So I'm going to leave you the last word for the audience. This was the very first Sports for Sustainable Development high-level session at the FIX 2025. Please, your final word.
Okay, sorry. My final word, it's better with the microphone on. My final word here is that I find these three panels actually complement each other very, very well. And this is, we need all of us to work together. I really like what you said in terms of coming with financial innovation, new structure, patient capital, blended finance. So we'll all work on that. You can count on IFC. We will support the development of this sector in the region. And we were very keen on increasing our support. We'll work with all of you to find the right instruments to do it. And this is really an area where I see a huge growth. I hear 15% growth last year in Africa for the sports and creative industry sector. I see it going even further, and we will be here to support you. So thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Hamid, your final word?
I concur totally with what has been said. I think we have to rise up to the challenge to work together, even though we don't have the same constraint, the same, let's say, limit. I think we have to learn to combine our talent, combine our resources to achieve the goal, which is in fact the common goal that we have with regard to this project of sport development.
Thank you very much. Claire.
Collaboration is very important, and that's what we're doing here on the continent as NBA Africa. Today we have programs for youth development in basketball in 20 countries. We call them junior NBA programs. In order to reach all these countries, we look for partners, and if there's anyone that is interested here, that is, I think, an opportunity to collaborate. In Morocco, we work with UM6P. In Kenya, we work with Safaricom. In Angola, we work with ExxonMobil and Africell, among others. So if you're here, collaboration is going to take us far.
Thank you very much. And that's a wrap. That was the end of this session dedicated to finance at the high-level session Sports for Sustainable Development. Thank you so very much, Sergio Pimenta, Hamid Taufiki, Claire Aka Manzi. Thank you all. Please join me here for the official picture. Guys, here for the official, here, this side, Sergio, Hamid, here.